Okay, you're good to go, Mr.
Thank you very much, Madam Clerk. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the public, staff, and council. Welcome to the Monday, February 7th, 2022 council meeting. Call the meeting to order. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that the February 7th, 2022 council meeting of the Township of South Glengarry now be opened at 7:01 p.m. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. I'll now ask everyone to stand for the playing of our national anthem. Thank you very much for that, Madam Clerk. Moving on to item 3, approval of the agenda. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have a number of items that have been requested to be moved from committee reports and information only into other business for discussion. Those items being item 7CB, the Agricultural Resource Committee minutes from January the 20th. Item 7DA, the Accessibility Annual Status Update. 7DC, Municipal Modernization Program Intake 2 Report. Item 7DD, the Asset Management Update. Item 7DI, the letter regarding the Year of the Garden. Item 7DK, the resolution from the United Counties of SDNG regarding GFL Environmental. And item 7DM, the resolution regarding the National Child Care Program.
Okay, lots to add tonight and not a problem. So moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell, be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And we've got the minutes, approval of the minutes 5A, January 17th, 2022. Moved by Sam McDonnell, seconded by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that the minutes of the January 17th, 2022 regular council meeting, including the closed session minutes, be adopted as circulated. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that the minutes of the January 13th, 2022 special council meeting, including the closed session minutes, be adopted as circulated. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. All right, that's it for minutes. Moving on to item 6A, oath of office. Councillor Rebecca Luck. Madam Clerk, are you going to take this one?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. Did we miss the item 4, declaration of pecuniary interest?
Yes, we did. My apologies to that. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to declare items 7AC and 7AE as a conflict of interest because I'm employed with EVB Engineering.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you for that. My apologies for missing it. Okay. So we'll move on to the oath of office, Councillor Luck.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. This evening, Council will note that we have our newly appointed councillor, Rebecca Luck, here with us for her first official meeting as a councillor. And before we get underway, we'll make this official, and Councillor Luck will recite the oath of office.
Thank you. I, Rebecca Luck, having been elected or appointed to the office of councillor in the municipality of South Glengarry, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or any improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear the true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. And I make this solemn promise and declarations conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is the same force and effect as if made under oath.
All righty, thank you very much, Councillor Luck. And I have a resolution to read. Moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 07-2022 be received, and the bylaw 07-2022 being a bylaw to appoint Rebecca Luck to the committee. Oh, I'm sorry. That is the next one. Oh, I jumped the gun on that. My apologies. So she doesn't need a resolution for this one.
No, through you, Mr. Mayor, Council passed a resolution at the last meeting for the appointment. So this is the ceremonial oath of office.
Okay, my apologies. I'm all over the place. Congratulations. Well done. You didn't skip a beat. Before we go any further, I did want to make an announcement, and I wanted to do it after Councillor Luck had sworn in as officially as councillor. Last week on the 27th of January, Village of Lancaster experienced a water main break. And I wanted to thank all of our staff members who came together, including the fire department, roads department, many managers, and some were having to work remotely for various reasons. And I, on behalf of council, wanted to thank all of them publicly for the work that they did. Many of our staff worked well over 24 hours consecutively, and we got the water back on as soon as we could. So well done, and thank you on behalf of council to all the members that did that. Thank you. Okay, back on track, folks. 7A, staff reports. 7AA, appointment of Councillor Luck to the Committee of Adjustment. Ms. Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as council, our council is now very aware of the permissions within the Ontario Planning Act for our councils to be members of the Committee of Adjustment, but I'll just review that for the benefit of the public. So Section 44 of the Ontario Planning Act allows a municipality to appoint a Committee of Adjustment, and that's to deal with minor variances from our zoning bylaw. Section 44.3 of the Ontario Planning Act allows that the members of the committee to be members of council, and members of council are permitted to be appointed providing they are appointed annually. And that gives the council the opportunity to make sure that this is a right fit for them and that it's working well. And in my experiences so far with this council being our Committee of Adjustment, it's been working very well over the years. So that being said, the purpose of the staff report this evening is now that we have a new councillor involved, we need to appoint Councillor Luck to this committee so that she too can participate in the Committee of Adjustment meetings and help make decisions for the minor variance applications that come before you. So that's all I have to explain, Mr. Mayor, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you. I feel it's pretty straightforward. I'm going to go ahead and read that resolution one more time. Moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 07-2022 be received and bylaw 07-2022 being a bylaw to appoint Councillor Rebecca Luck to the Committee of Adjustment for the Township of South Glengarry for the year 2022 be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed the 7th day of February 2022. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to 7A-B, appointment of interim treasurer and signing authority. Ms. Compo.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. As council is aware, there are several positions, administrative positions within the municipality that are required to be appointed by bylaw and are mandatory under the Municipal Act. One of those positions being that of treasurer. Now, the position of treasurer does not have to be someone who is employed full-time by the township, but we do have to have somebody who is appointed to carry out that role. Just prior to this meeting, council met Mr. Michael Hudson, who has been hired on an interim basis on a contract to fulfill the role of the treasurer for the township until such a time that we fill the position permanently. So the purpose of this report and resolution and bylaw this evening is to appoint Mr. Hudson as treasurer for the Township of South Glengarry, as well as to grant him signing authority for our financial matters and banking, and appoints the existing signing authority, reappoints the existing signing authorities, those being Mayor Warden, our CAO, Mr. Mills, and our Deputy Treasurer, Kaylin McDonald.
Okay, pretty straightforward report. Thank you for that, Ms. Compo. Are there any other questions or comments of members of council? Seeing none, moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Rebecca Luck. Be it resolved that staff report 08-2022 be received and that bylaw 06-2022 being a bylaw to appoint Michael Hudson as treasurer for the corporation of the Township of South Glengarry be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council the 7th day of February 2022. And furthermore, that the council of the Township of South Glengarry authorize that all checks of the corporation drawn on its accounts may be signed by Mayor Lyle Warden, CAO Tim Mills, Interim Treasurer Michael Hudson, and Deputy Treasurer Kaylin McDonald, and that they also be authorized to sign all other documents required in this manner. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on to 7AC, Place Saint Laurent. Ms. Compo.
Apologies, I was on mute there. Thank you. And through you, Mr. Mayor, this item before council this evening is essentially a housekeeping item. Back in 2020, when council initially received this report and approved the removal of the 1-foot reserves, it was approved by resolution, and at the time a bylaw had not been passed. However, in order to register the removal of the 1-foot reserves, we do need a bylaw, and we're at the point where that registration is taking place. So this is essentially a housekeeping item. Council's already received this request and approved it by resolution. We just need to pass a bylaw this evening to register it.
Okay, thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, moved by Martin Lang, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 09-2022 be received and that bylaw 08-2022 being a bylaw to remove the 1-foot reserve legally described as block 34 on plan 14M9 pin 67128-0344 be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council the 7th day of February 2022. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. 7AD, SD&G History Plaque Project Recommendations. Ms. Compo.
You get to hear from me a lot tonight. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Council may recall back in December of 2021, you received a delegation from Todd Lai, who is the communications coordinator with the United Counties of SD&G. And he presented a county-wide project to council regarding the installation of historic plaques in each of the lower tier municipalities through SD&G. The United Counties are starting this project off with 3 plaques in each municipality, and we're seeking feedback from municipal councils as to where they would like to see these plaques located, as well as the type of content that the councils would like to see on these plaques. At that time, council directed administration to seek feedback from the township's Heritage Advisory Committee. So in January, the committee met several times with staff as well as Mr. Laihu to discuss the project and brainstorm some ideas which are presented in the report for council's consideration and approval. So the 3 locations and themes that the committee is proposing are the first being in Green Valley, with a general theme of the history of Green Valley, centering on the Francophone education piece, as well as the rail history. And there was discussion of a large dance hall or pavilion that used to be located in Green Valley. And the proposed location for this plaque is at the Green Valley Community Center, given the parameters that were set by the counties looking for township-owned properties, as well as those that would have a higher bit of foot traffic. So that was the first plaque proposed by the committee. The second plaque proposed is for the Glen Walter area, proposed to be located on the small piece of green space that the township owns across from Glen Walter Park Road. And the proposed theme for this plaque centers around the waterfront, as well as the waterfront trail, history of fishing in the area, that sort of theme. The third proposed plaque is proposed to be regarding the peanut line, talking about the history of the transition from rail line to that of a recreational trail. It was proposed that the plaque be located, towards the Williamstown Fairgrounds area, where there might be a bit more traffic, with an exact location to be determined. One of the other reasons that these 3 locations were proposed by the committee is that they're areas that we don't already have a high presence of historical landmarks or historical plaques already. If you look at our Glengarry Roots Heritage Tour map, there isn't a whole lot on that map in those 3 areas. So the thought of the committee was that it would add something to those areas instead of overloading spots where we already have a lot of historical content. So those are the locations proposed by the committee. Myself and Sherry Lynn Servage, our Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture, participated in those meetings, and Deputy Mayor Jaworski is the chair of that committee. So if council has any questions, I'm sure we can tackle them this evening.
Okay, thank you very much for your report, Ms. Compo. Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you, through Mayor Warden. I just wanted to add that, as you can see, the committee put a lot of thoughtful work into coming up with these recommendations. I mean, we had a solid 2 hours of discussion, over 2 separate meetings on, actually more than that, in terms of these proposals. So I think, as Ms. Compo has laid out, they were, the idea of looking to those areas of our township where we don't have as many plaques, ones that ones where the history hasn't perhaps been highlighted as much as it could be up to this point. I thought that that was excellent work by them. And although I didn't pull the committee minutes, Heritage Committee minutes, I did want to mention that sort of the assuming that this project may go forward, in another form, having more plaques, one of the other items that was discussed is perhaps sort of more in the North Lancaster area, something along the lines of like history of agriculture. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Seeing no other hands, I did want to say I have a concern with the, personally, I have a concern with the Glen Walter plaque. Nothing to do with the content. I think it's great. I don't like the location, and I feel like if we're going to attract folks in who may be driving, there's absolutely no parking there, and it's actually a dangerous corner. There was a fatal car accident there probably 10 years ago. I caution that location, but I think it's great, the content, and I do appreciate the work of the Heritage Committee. I'm just wondering if anyone else shares that thought. I just would hate to turn something really nice into something that may not be. Councillor McDonnell, you had your hand up.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I would agree on that. I would agree on that as well. Not only do we have there's very little parking there. There's maybe a better spot, whether it was, I know Glen Walter Park gets a little far from the river as far as reminding you of that part of it. I don't hate the North Lancaster idea that the deputy mayor threw out, but maybe there's another location. And two, we're all aware, maybe some other signage that may be in the works, but not sure.
Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. I'll disagree with you guys. I'm not looking at it as traffic issue for cars stopping stuff. I'm looking at it as is a fairly major bike path there, and something for cyclists to stop and look at, maybe a little rest area for cyclists. I don't think we're looking to get a lot of cars in that area. I think it's more for foot traffic and for cyclists. So I think along those veins, it would be fine.
Okay, fair enough. Ms. Compo.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. To add on to Councillor Lang's comment, part of our discussion surrounding that location was that we thought it might be a good fit given the plans that Ms. Servage has for developing that spot in a sense for cyclists and adding some amenities there for cyclists. So the thought there was more so for people who are using that waterfront trail, walking and cycling, that they would be able to utilize or be able to see the plaque in that regard.
Okay, fair enough. Are there any other questions or comments? Back to you, Deputy Mayor, for the final comment.
Thank you. No, I guess originally I had raised my hand just to highlight exactly what Ms. Campo was saying there about the work that Ms. Servage has been working on for that specific piece of land, and how it sounds like, it will be, it would integrate very well with the whole bike path proposal.
Okay. Seeing no other comments, moved by Rebecca Luck, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that staff report 10-22 be received, and that council approve the recommendations of the Heritage Advisory Committee and recommend to the United Counties of SD&G that historical plaques be located in Green Valley, history of Green Valley, Glen Walter, history of the St. Lawrence River / waterfront theme, and along the Peanut Line, history of the Peanut Line. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you all very much. Moving on to 7AE, Glen Walter Water and Wastewater Servicing Master Plan, final report, approval, Ms. McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And before I delve into this report, I just wanted to thank you for your kind words at the beginning of this meeting. And if I may, through you, throw on some of my own kind words to the Water Division, who worked tirelessly on January 27th, January 31st, and February 2nd in doing emergency repairs to the Lancaster water distribution system. So thank you for that indulgence. And now to the report at hand. Before you is the Glen Walter Water and Wastewater Servicing Master Plan final report approval. This project has been ongoing for over a year, I believe almost 2 years. Council will remember that a presentation was brought forward in early September, providing a summary kind of report of the work done to date and the recommendations. Following that, there was a public information session or center held, sorry. On the line here tonight, we have both Mr. Sege, who is the Director of Water and Wastewater here at the Township, and Mr. Vincelli from EVB Engineering. So if there are questions at the end, they'd be happy likely to help me out. The information that was presented both at that council meeting in September and at the Public Information Center has not changed. The draft report was put on notice. We went our 30 days and did not receive any comments or substantial input from public agencies. And now we're putting before you this evening the final master or servicing master plan for hopefully your acceptance. And we are asking that we be directed to complete the Schedule C environmental assessment for the expansion of the Glen Walter water treatment plant and water pollution control plant, which is the one of the next step for implementing the recommendation of the report, which is the expansion of the municipal services boundary.
Okay.
That's what I have, and questions if there are any.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for that, Ms. McDonald. I see Mr. Vincelli is on as well. If there are any questions, very detailed report. Lots of numbers, lots of figures, lots of restless evenings. But here we are, and I'm hoping that council will approve this so we can get on to the next step. Are there any other questions or comments? Wonderful. Moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that staff report 11-2022 be received and that the council accept the Glen Walter water and wastewater servicing master plan, and furthermore that administration be directed to complete Schedule C environmental assessment for the expansion of the Glen Walter water treatment plant and Glen Walter pollution control plant. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Ms. McDonald. I look forward to hearing from you or EVB on next steps so that we can start the Class C as soon as possible. As you're well aware, this is an imminent and very important project for our municipality. So thank you very much. Moving on to 7AF, Municipal Modernization Program, Intake 3, Transfer Payment Agreement, Ms. Compo.
Thank you, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Council's aware that administration applied for the third round of the Municipal Modernization Program earlier or late last year, late in 2021. And we had applied for funds to complete a comprehensive assessment of the township's current administrative practices within our human resources, corporate services, finance, and planning, building, and enforcement departments. So what we're looking to move towards is analyzing options for digitizing and implementing a standardized paperless electronic system across all departments, and identify opportunities for efficiencies to save overall on administrative costs. So we were successful in obtaining these funds through the program, and we are able to spend up to $152,640 towards the completion of this report. So just to be very clear, the purpose of this project is for a report to assess and provide recommendations for us to move forward. So we applied under the review stream and not the implementation stream. So we'll receive a report out of this project that will help us move towards these efficiencies and cost savings. So in order to move forward with the project and receive the funds, we're required to enter into a transfer payment agreement with the province, which must be passed by bylaw. And we're required to provide the province with a copy of that. So that's what is before council this evening, subject to your questions and approval.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Ms. Compo, for that. You certainly are having a lot of reports tonight. I certainly am happy to see this again, and I certainly hope that the work that's going to be undertaking will explore options for like an app where residents can sign up for their tax bill to be sent to them electronically, garbage notifications. I hope all that is going to be encompassed in that report or study, I should say. Any other questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, moved by Stephanie Jaworski, seconded by Rebecca Luck. Be it resolved that staff report 12-2022 be received, and that bylaw 10-2022 being a bylaw to enter into a transfer payment agreement with Her Majesty the Queen in the right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing be read a first, second, and third time, passed, signed, and sealed in open council the 7th day of February 2022. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. Alrighty. And we're moving on to item 7BA, abandoned cemeteries. I guess I can speak to that. It was something that I had asked to be pulled at the last meeting. As you all might be aware, abandoned cemeteries are becoming a big issue for a lot of rural municipalities. Church congregations aren't what they used to be, and all of that, the responsibilities of those cemeteries fall at our feet, and the province, we'd like the province to step in and help us with that. So I'm looking for a mover and a seconder to pass this resolution so that we can hopefully lobby the government to send us some money. So I have Councillor McDonnell and Deputy Mayor Jaworski seconding. Are there any questions or comments on this resolution? Seeing none, I'll repeat it again. Moved by Sam McDonnell, seconded by Stephanie Jaworski. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby supports Prince Edward County's call for government action concerning the current legislation and regulations surrounding municipal requirements to take over and maintain abandoned operating cemeteries. And furthermore, that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Minister of Government and Consumer Services, Roma, the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus, and all Ontario municipalities. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And moving on to 7BB, resolution joint and several liability. I guess I'll speak to that again. Basically, as you're all aware, this has been an issue facing municipalities for a number of years. We were promised that the province would do something about this. They haven't up until this point in time, and I think we need to send them a reminder before the end of this current term. So I have here that it will be moved by Deputy Mayor Jaworski, and I will need a seconder. Okay, Councillor Lang will second. Is there any other questions or comments? Perfect. Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Warden. I just wanted to briefly add that this was something, that Roma is pushing for, and it was brought up at the recent Roma conference that I participated in virtually. And based on the comments from the minister in charge of this portfolio, it seems like we will need to continue to keep pushing on this particular item. So I think it's very important that we follow through and support this resolution.
Okay, perfect. Seeing no other comments. Moved by Stephanie Jaworski, seconded by Martin Lang. Whereas municipal governments provide essential services to the residents and businesses in their communities, and whereas the ability to provide those services is negatively impacted by exponentially rising insurance costs, and whereas one driver of rising insurance costs is the legal principle of joint and several liability, which assigns disproportionate liability to municipalities for an incident relative to their responsibility for it. And whereas the government of Ontario has the authority and responsibility for the legal framework of joint and several liability, and whereas the Premier of Ontario committed to review the issue in 2018 with a view to helping municipal governments manage their risks and costs, and whereas the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, on behalf of municipal governments, has provided recommendations to align municipal liability with the proportionate responsibility for incidents in capping awards. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry hereby supports AMO recommendations, that the Township of South Glengarry calls on the Attorney General of Ontario to work with municipal governments to put forward a plan of action to address joint and several liability before the end of the government's current term, so that municipalities can continue to offer high quality services to their communities. And furthermore, that this resolution be forwarded to the Attorney General of Ontario, the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, MPP Jim McDonnell, and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and all other municipalities. Whew. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to 7C committee reports. Those are pretty well just minutes.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Lang requested to pull item 7CB, the Ag Committee minutes.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much for that. I didn't go to that screen. So we'll go right to that one. Councillor Lang, did you, your comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I'd like to thank the Ag Resource Committee. We had a meeting last month and talked about garbage bag limits and I'm just bringing it forward. So there's some interesting recommendations coming from the farm community, and hopefully council will take a look at those, and hopefully staff will come back to us with a report on the way we can move forward with it. Just a comment for the general public listening that the township has various committees, and I think it's wonderful that we do, and they do great work, and they're invaluable to us at council here. But after the last ag meeting, there was a thing came up in the local paper just saying that farmers are going to be exempt, and the ag committee does not have that power. The ag committee provides recommendations, and council will decide what's going to happen with those recommendations. So just if you happen to be tuning into some of these committee meetings, just to realize that they are committees that council has put out there, that we appreciate their advice and so forth, but the decisions are not made at those committees. It's just advice for council to take, but much appreciated the farmers' input and some solutions that may work, and hopefully we can something can come from that. So just want to bring that forward.
Perfect. I certainly appreciate the dialogue, Councillor Lang, and I appreciate the work you do with those folks. Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Warden, I'd like to second that as well, that we very much appreciate the work of all our committees, including that of the Ag Committee. And I didn't have a chance to view that meeting, but I did read the minutes, and certainly maybe there is something there in terms of agricultural plastics or something that perhaps, as a township, we could look at further and see if there aren't ways that we can't further support that specific industry in helping reduce waste. So definitely some interesting topic going forward. Thank you.
Certainly is, and it'll be interesting to see what will happen when the producer responsibility legislation comes in, and I think that may change and solve a lot of our problems. I really do. Okay, any other comments on that? Seeing none, moving on to 7DA for information purposes only. Accessibility multi-year plan. Ms. Compo.
Thank you. And Councillor Lang asked to pull this one, so I'll defer to him and answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, and through you, Mr. Mayor. Not a lot of comments other than it was good to read. We had one not too long ago, maybe it's almost 2 years ago now. Great to see the steps forward that we've been taking and progress is being made. I'm going to leave it at that. Just thankful that, we're moving forward and staff has been keeping up on this, and I'll turn it back to our clerk to add anything that she would like to add.
Thank you, Councillor Lang, and through you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate the comments. We have accomplished a lot in the last 2 years with regards to accessibility. Yes, this council may recall back early 2020, we adopted a new multi-year accessibility plan for the years 2020 to 2025. And so we're required every 2 years to submit a report to the province reporting on our compliance with our accessibility requirements. And I was quite pleased with the feedback we received back from our accessibility committee, who reviewed this report prior to it coming back to council. And the committee had a lot of very positive feedback and was quite pleased with the progress that we've made in the last couple of years. So we're getting closer and closer every year to reaching our full compliance with the provincial accessibility standards, and we're quite proud of some of the work that has been completed in the last 2 years.
Perfect, thank you. This was one I had asked to be pulled, and again, I wanted to kind of in the lines of Councillor Lang, just appreciate the headway that we're making, and I was happy to see a lot of the yellow on there. So, are there any other questions or comments on that one? Okay, perfect. Now I got to go to the other page. C, sorry guys, I don't have the letters all in the same spot. So C, Committee of no, that was the wrong one. Municipal Modernization Intake 2, Records Management. Who would ask for that to come forward? Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Warden. So yeah, and for that specific one, I mean, the report is there, and I found it to be somewhat high level. So I wanted to ask staff maybe a little bit more detail on what are the next steps for this work.
Thank you. And sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
So I spoke a little earlier in this meeting regarding the Municipal Modernization Program Intake 3. This report actually goes back to Intake 2, and Council will recall we received funds to complete an assessment of our records management practices, which was to result in the report that is on the agenda this evening for your information. And as Deputy Mayor Jaworski has commented, it is a high-level report. A lot of the recommendations that came back are not a surprise to us. We know we have some improvements to make, and certainly what's being proposed in this report, we expected a lot of that. Now, in terms of next steps, because really what's in this report is not a roadmap forward. There aren't definable steps in there. There's recommendations on actions we should take, policies we should have, but it doesn't tell us do X, Y, Z next. However, our work on this project is not done. It's not over with this report. So our next steps are going to involve continuing discussions with the consultant who prepared this report. We'll be meeting with her this Friday, where she is going to outline those next steps and her recommendations on what we do next. What I'm anticipating that is going to look like is the issuance of an RFP to go out to tender and an RFP, sorry, for proposals on a digital, an EDRMS, so an electronic, oh my goodness, hold on, electronic digital management record system. So that's going to outline for us how we should be structuring our records electronically, what type of system we should be using moving forward, will encompass records such as emails. So next step is going to involve going to tender, getting a proposal, and then implementing that. And so going back to a comment that I made earlier in speaking about intake 3, our proposal for this project was under the review stream. So what we got what we're supposed to get out of the funding portion, which is the report. So if another round of funding were to open, we could now apply under the implementation stream to get funds to implement some of these recommendations. And if a funding opportunity does not become available, it's something that we'll have to budget for moving forward. And we've already, budgeted to start with some next steps this year.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that additional detail. Sorry. I think
I'll finish your comment, Deputy Mayor.
Okay. No, briefly, what I wanted to say is thank you very much for that additional detail. And I guess I would just say that maybe to keep in mind, obviously very important work that we need to do, but always to keep in mind sort of, the size and scale of our township, and that, perhaps the perfection that the consultant might be recommending might not be, necessarily what we need to strive for to be able to really achieve those key efficiencies that we want to get for a township of our size. So that's the comment I want to make. Thank you.
Thank you. CEO Mills.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So to Councillor Jaworski's point, if you look at if you were to look at page 21 of the report, the value proposition, when you bring in something like records management, it's a huge task. It hasn't something that's been done in the township per se in this manner, but we want to better manage information. It doesn't have to be perfect. The key point there that the consultants brought up is that experts estimate that employees can spend up to 40% of their day searching for things and trying to find things, especially if they're old records. In fact, we're going to talk about that later on in the meeting. But when we're talking about records management here, we're not looking for perfection, just a central repository where if someone comes to me or the clerk, or they're looking for something in the past, or freedom of information or whatever, it can take maybe 3 hours instead of 30 days the way it is now. So it is concerning at times when you see that they bring up organizational risk and compliance. But while it seems like it may be precise, we control this in the end. And I'm confident in the staff that we'll be able to do it in a way that doesn't call, the whole idea is to make less work for staff rather than more work for staff. And we'll make sure we get that through to the consultant.
Great, thanks for that. Are there any other questions or comments? Okay, moving on to D, the next one. My apologies, I have to go back 2 screens here. Asset management update. Ms. McDonald, was that who asked that one to be pulled?
I believe that was you, Mr. Mayor.
It was a mistake but let's have an update anyways. Asset management is a very important topic within our municipality. And how are you making out with that, Manager McDonald?
Thank you, Mayor Warden, and through you to everyone. We are working towards updating our asset management plan in compliance with OREG 58817, which stipulates that we will have our asset management plan in respect to its core municipal infrastructure, which is our roads, our bridges, and our water, wastewater, on or before July 1st of this year. It is a big undertaking, and it had been started by Treasurer McDonald, and previous to that, the former GM of infrastructure. So we're rolling along, and we're inputting work from the roads working committee. Our OSIM reports feed into the bridges, and we're working, actually, Mr. Sege and I again are working towards filling in the sanitary and stormwater and water infrastructure bits. We have assistance from EVP Engineering on this, and we are really hoping to make that July 1st date, but it's something that the infrastructure department will be focusing on heavily over the next kind of 4 months. So thank you for pulling this and allowing me to talk about it a bit.
And Are we on target for July? Because I know it was supposed to be due last July, but with COVID, the government gave us a 1-year extension. So we're on target for that.
It will be close. Our current plan is to have a draft report sometime in May and then bring it before you folks in June, if everything goes according to plan.
All righty, that's perfect. Thank you very much. So we're moving on to item, sorry again, I. And I did ask to have that one brought forward in regards to the, sorry guys, it went here. The letter of the year of the garden. So I was approached by one of our local horticultural societies who do great work throughout our municipality, making the little villages and a lot of our areas look very beautiful and colorful during the summer months. And I was asked if we would consider declaring 2022 the year of the garden. I told the group that I would bring it forward at this meeting to get council support. And if you all were in agreement, we would have a resolution at our next meeting, be read and officially declare 2022 the year of the garden for the reasons outlined in the letter. So I'll just kind of need a nod or a seconder to get it onto the table, and we'll do that at our next meeting if you all are okay. I see Councillor Lang has his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yeah, I would support that. I was also wanted to bring that forward tonight. So if there's a resolution put up, you can put me down as your seconder.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Perfect. Thank you very much. Ms. Campo, you'll bring that back at our next meeting.
Yes, I will.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And the item K, which is the resolution for GFL. Okay, that's myself as well. So at our county council meeting last month, one of the councillors from county council had asked this resolution be passed. And I'm not sure if members of our council are familiar with GFL, but they are a very large part of what goes on in SDNG and Eastern Ontario in regards to waste management. They have a plan to convert waste gas into natural gas, so it can be burned to heat your homes and whatnot. And I thought it would be important that we, if council was okay with that, to support this resolution, as I think it's an innovative way that they're looking after garbage these days, essentially. So I'm hoping you guys will consider this. I think it's good for the community. It's certainly what the plans they're hoping to do will benefit the environment in the years to come. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yeah, I'd be happy to support it, and if you need a second, I'll do that as well. I think I know there's some people out there that maybe make some comments that aren't perfect about the large dump in the up near the 417 there, but it's there, and I think they're doing a number of things to. And if you read that whole report, they're doing a number of things to try to help the environment, to be involved, and if we can get some government money to extend that natural gas line, get them doing more, and maybe work towards those greenhouse stuff. I think it's all a good thing. So I'm going to support it.
Thank you very much. I certainly was there on a tour in November, and I will say that my opinion of garbage changed after that, after going to the site. Okay, so any more questions or comments on that? I appreciate that, and I look forward to passing that at our next meeting. And I believe the final one is 7DM, National Child Care Program. And I'm not sure who, Deputy Mayor Jaworski.
Thank you, through Mayor Warden. I was hoping that this resolution that's being put forward by Niagara-on-the-Lake, actually, sorry, the City of St. Catharines, is something that we could consider supporting from our council. As I understand it, Ontario is the last province that hasn't come to an agreement with the federal government with respect to a reduced cost childcare plan, or often called the $10 a day childcare plan. I know I've worked in a group where the majority of my colleagues are actually based in Quebec, and certainly you can see they've had this type of arrangement for many years now, and you can really see there's not only anecdotal but also a lot of strong data that shows the impact that plan has had in terms of having women in the workforce in Quebec. And certainly, like with the pandemic that that we're going through right now, the group of who's been very highly impacted by that and has left the labor force is predominantly, not exclusively, but predominantly mothers of children. So I think that this supporting this or getting this in place will be something that will definitely help us come out of the pandemic. In terms of how we have an economic recovery from it. And also, just even speaking very anecdotally, recently, I was speaking with someone who is looking at, taking employment in South Glengarry. And when we were discussing about them perhaps relocating, they don't want to relocate to South Glengarry because they don't want to lose their subsidized childcare that they have currently in Quebec. So I think that this could have some other interesting impact for our region, since we are so close to an area where they do have it. So I'm hoping that there could be support around the table for supporting this resolution.
Thank you very much. I certainly have no issue supporting this. I remember when my daughter was in daycare, we were fortunate enough to have family that look after her, but it certainly isn't the case for the majority of folks out there. And I think it's time that the province does the same, and especially being the last one of the other provinces. So I'm okay to support this. Are there any other questions or comments? Councillor Luck.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. As my first time speaking on this council meeting, this actually is really close to home. My first daughter, when the pandemic started, our daycare service, everyone was in a big panic, and they kind of quit the daycare industry, and a lot of other mothers were in the same situation. We were kind of stuck with employment and trying to balance everything. And then when we had our second daughter, we went on the waiting list right away, and we were 67th in the childcare centers. So I think availability is very, very important. And then that being said, there's also the flip side of it, in that I suppose I worry that the funding will just be for the large, publicly funded daycare centers, and then it'll overlook the private daycare workers. So right now, for example, my daughter is in a private daycare. A lady runs it from the basement of her home. She's lovely, and I don't know if she would be entitled to having a $10 daycare. So I guess that's my concern, that I hope that we can kind of make this available to everyone.
Okay, thank you very much. So there's enough support, so we'll have this back at our next meeting to vote on the resolution. So thank you all for your comments. Moved by Rebecca Luck, second by Martin Lang. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of South Glengarry accept the items presented on the agenda as committee reports and for information only. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. And moved by Martin Lang, second by Sam McDonnell. Be it resolved that the council convene to close session at 7:59 p.m. to discuss the following items under section 239(2) of the Municipal Act. A meeting or part of a meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered is C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality, specifically staff report 13-2022. D, labor relations or employee negotiations, specifically staff report 14-2022. And F, advanced subject to solicitor client privilege, specifically staff report 15-2022. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. I'd like to thank you all for attending the first part of our meeting. I thought with the 300-page agenda that we would have it longer. Ms. Compo.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, before we go into close, there is one more resolution just to appoint Mr. Mills as acting clerk for a portion of the closed meeting that we should read before we are in closed.
Okay, perfect. So moved by Sam McDonnell, second by Stephanie Jaworski. Be resolved that Tim Mills be appointed acting clerk for the portion of the closed session relating to labor relations or employee negotiations. All those in favor of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you very much. And thanks again for attending.